Several months ago, I decided to go road tripping through California after I was laid off due to the recent pandemic. Fortunately for me, I had some money saved up and was able to buy myself a small but practical RV, which included a kitchen, a bathroom, and a large, comfortable bed. Anyway, it had always been a dream of mine to visit the national parks in the US. After reading the book Missing 411, my first destination was going to be Yosemite National Park, where I had planned on staying for the whole month with my 2 huskies. In order to conduct my own investigation into several high-profile missing person cases for a book I was writing, I had 40 more miles to go before reaching Yosemite, so I decided to find a place where I could park my RV for the night. I was getting pretty tired and was in desperate need of sleep. I drove around for an hour or so before I finally found a spot right next to a very secluded beach along the Pacific Coast Highway, which was not on the map where I parked my RV. I was used to stealth camping, especially at night, as I did it several times before in order to save money, and, being a female, I always took precautions while traveling solo. I always carried a weapon of some sort with me too, just in case I encountered some crazy person on the road. Anyway, it was around 10 at night when I decided to take a walk along the beach in order to stretch my legs before going to bed. I grabbed my flashlight and 2 huskies, then set off for the beach. Even with my flashlight on, though, everything around me was still pitch black. Walking along the edge of the beach, I could hear the waves crashing against the rocks that littered the shoreline. As I continued my walk on the beach, I tripped on something, nearly falling face first into the sand. Pointing my flashlight down, I noticed a tattered sleeping bag and various other camping gear scattered along the beach. "What the hell?" I asked out loud. Just then, I heard a woman's voice calling me from the water, followed by a loud splash, causing both of my dogs to start growling. "What is it, girls?" I asked my dogs. I pointed my flashlight in the direction of the splash, and that's when I saw something bobbing up and down in the water. The voice continued to call, having a sort of weird hypnotic effect on me. My instincts immediately kicked in when I realized it was a person. Well, not exactly. I removed my shoes and quickly jumped in. As I swam towards the figure, I could hear Daisy and Violet barking near the shoreline. I could still see the figures as I approached them, but something fell off, and I instinctively clutched at the pocket knife that I kept in my bra. Then, all of a sudden, I heard an ear-piercing scream, reminding me of a mountain lion. This stopped me dead in my tracks, and so I quickly turned around and swam breathlessly back to shore. A few seconds later, when I looked back again, I noticed the figure was now gone. Just then, I felt something grab my leg, pulling me underwater and causing searing pain throughout my whole body. The hand was green and gnarled with extremely long nails that reminded me of talons. Fear kicked in as I tried to kick whatever it was that grabbed my leg. Then I remembered my pocket knife. I reached for it inside my bra and brought it down hard on the creature's hand. It let out a blood-curdling scream before finally releasing my leg. Once again, I swam back to shore where Daisy and Violet were still barking. When I was safely out of the water, I grabbed my 2 dogs and quickly ran back to my RV. I locked the door, then jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine. But when I turned on the headlights, I nearly puked because there were hundreds of glowing red eyes inside the water. Needless to say, I didn't stick around long. I've been living in a van for 15 years, and this is how it became the end of it. This is a true story of mine. Believe it or not, it is up to you. In 2016, I traveled throughout California and I enjoyed every bit of it. I work online using my laptop, so I can work everywhere I go. And I have saved up tons of money during the past few years. I want to sell my van and get a big RV, but I realized everything I need is a perfect fit for my van and doesn't really need an upgrade. Every day, I'd go find a small peaceful spot and sit back and relax while watching Netflix. Every Friday I would go to a campground to fish and treat myself with a 6-pack of beer. One summer Friday, I went to a grocery store and bought some snacks and a 6-pack to go and chill at the campground. It takes me 4 hours to get to the campground. When you get there, you'll have to drive for 30 minutes on a dirt road to get to the spot where I want to stay. I've visited this location several times and enjoy the surroundings. When I arrive, I unpack my food and set up a folding table so that I can enjoy cooking my catch after fishing. I got my fishing pole and my 6-pack and walked to a lake that was a 10-minute walk from my van. I got to the peaceful lake and saw that there was a huge fallen tree that wasn't there before. I didn't really take a close look at the huge fallen tree and took off my backpack and sat on the tree. Then I started to set up my fishing pole and hook the bait on it. I was sitting on that big tree, and to my horror, the tree or thing that I was sitting on moved, and I fell back, then got up and looked. I took a close look, and it wasn't a fallen tree. It had some big scales and moved like an anaconda, but it was nothing close to an anaconda. My guess is that it is more than 20 feet long and around 2 feet wide. It turns its head to look at me, and it has big sharp teeth and 2 large horns on its head. It stared at me for a good 5 seconds before it slowly crawled into the lake. I was freaked out and left all my stuff and ran back to my van. I locked all the doors and windows. I was shaking and thinking, what the hell did I just see? I didn't get out of the van because it was almost dark by then. I put on soft music so I will not think of that thing. When I close my eyes, I see those sharp teeth with the horns on the creature's head. At 3:30 a.m., I woke up to a sound. It sounded like someone was splashing water on my van, so I got up and pulled out my pistol from under my bed. I slowly peered out the window and saw nothing, but I started to feel my van shake like crazy. I look around and still see nothing, but when I put my flashlight to the ground, I see that creature again with big scales like a fish scale. I went to look out the other window and realized that that thing had wrapped around my van, and that is why my van keeps on shaking. I shut the curtain after seeing a huge face with a large horn appear in my window. Through the night, I covered myself under my blanket and cried, praying to God and wishing it would go away. That creature splashed water and shook my van till the sunlight came up. That creature stopped, and finally I started my van and sped off, leaving my table and other stuff behind. I was shaking like crazy on the way out of the forest. I finally got to town and stayed over at a Walmart parking lot. Ever since then, I've stopped living in a van and am now living in an apartment. That's a true story that happened to me. Please comment below this video, Horror Life Media here, and let me know if any of you guys have ever encountered something like this. To this day, I'm still trying to find the answer to what that thing is.